Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to Freedom on Deck on 94.9 News Now and Stimulating Talk. The Long Island Redneck here, Brian Bro, joined always by the mean one, Chet Martin.
Another fantastic Freedom show for you coming your way this Sunday.
Oh, yeah. And the fearless one, C.V. Burton.
Hey, and I challenge you all to listen to the full 2 hours and comment on Twitter. Freedom on Deck. And we'll comment back.
That's right.
Keep it clean.
Keep it clean.
Just like our show.
But you can go mean.
Yeah, like our show.
You can go mean.
Bet you can go mean.
Oh, listen, before we get started, just so everybody knows, we have some really big guests today. We have Jamie Glazov. He's the editor of Front Page Magazine and author of the new book, Jihadist Psychopath, and he's good buddies with Dennis Prager. So that's a big get. And also Rick Eldridge from the producer of the new film, The Trump Prophecy. And he works for DreamWorks, and he produced this new movie that predicted that Donald J. Trump would be the next president of the United States, and it was it was God that spoke to someone. It's a really interesting movie, so it's going to be an interesting guest for sure.
Very, very cool. Very cool. And, of course, go on our social media and check us out, freedomondeck.com. But you got to, listen, Donald Trump had a pretty rough week this week.
It was tough.
He did. He did have a tough week. But I think he handled it well, except for maybe a tweet or two. And,
stop.
And but I love him for that. I mean,
yeah.
I love that he punches back and he doesn't take any guff. But his picks for the UN envoy, Heather Nauert, and help me out, Chet, the Attorney General pick of his?
Yeah, it's an establishment Republican, and
Barr.
Yes.
William Barr
to
serve as the Attorney General. And he actually led under George H.W. Bush. Speaking of George H.W. Bush, he's been paraded out for the past 2 weeks.
He's been laid to rest, finally. Hey, listen, say what you want, whether you had differences with the man or not. He did his best in office at the time, and and he was a war hero. He even lied about his age to be, to enlist. So the guy has spent his life serving this country.
Last week we spent a good amount of time talking about him. So.
But yeah, I mean, I have to tell you, I mean, she has an incredible record. And I think she's going to do as great a job as Nikki Haley did.
Nikki Haley, I hated Nikki Haley.
Yeah, but she was pretty good, man. She went there and she pounded the drum for America.
She wanted war with Russia.
Nah.
Yes, she did. Nikki Haley was a globalist put in place, and I never agreed with it.
I agree with
you.
Really?
Just about as much as I agree with Bolton being the ambassador right now.
Well, how much?
I don't like the walrus. Nikki Haley bothered me just as much. She would always poke and prod with Russia and with China and really put us in some danger.
And
that's
Syria.
why she was fired.
And Syria too.
Well, let me ask you a question.
She was fired. They say she stepped down, but she was fired.
What do you think Heather Nauert would do differently than Nikki Haley? Because I mean, we just recently had where they turned down this this UN proposal for Israel.
Yeah.
Okay, and they siding with Hamas.
Yep.
Okay, in this resolution, and what would she do differently?
Well,
how could that play out differently with somebody like Heather Nauert in the UN?
First of all, don't forget Nikki Haley, whether you like her or not, was involved with politics her entire life.
True.
She never knew anything outside of the political realm. Heather Nauert does not. But we gotta put her in and see what she's all about. One of the things I love about her, when I looked through her record today, is the Huffington Post put out an article about her and called her an Islamophobe and that she's a dangerous pick. So I already like her. You know what I mean? I mean, she already has this.
She pisses off all the right people.
Yeah. So I already say give her a shot. Listen, Nikki Haley just didn't mesh well with the with the Trump administration. If you don't forget, Nikki Haley, going back to when President Trump was initially running and started his campaign, trashed him 9 to 5. I mean, constantly.
That's true. Well, a lot of them did.
I
mean,
know. I understand that.
Let's be fair.
Well, but she wasn't running against him either. I mean, she was trashing him because she didn't want him to win. She wanted an establishment Jeb Bush or someone like that to win.
Like that, yeah.
Well, I don't even know about Cruz. Definitely Jeb.
That's the main difference between Haley and Nauert is that Heather Nauert had been a Trump supporter from the very beginning. That's the main difference. But what they have in common is that they're both very pretty. And I think maybe Donald Trump picked Heather because she's as pretty as Nikki Haley.
I never thought Nikki Haley was pretty. She's more attractive than a canine's rear end. But, what's going to be interesting is seeing Barr. And we're talking about the fact that William Barr already served under George H.W. Bush. So is that going to be good?
That gives me pause.
Gives me pause? Yeah. I don't like it. What do you mean gives me pause? Now all of a sudden it's okay for every. I
didn't say you had it. It's pause.
I understand, but you know what? I don't understand why every time he brings in a globalist, nobody bats an eyelash. Don't you think it's an issue?
Well, the thing is that I think that he's realizing that in order to get anything done, it's so deep, man.
Well,
the swamp is so it's a big swamp, bro.
Well, I'll tell you this: the more globalists,
it's more like a bayou than it is a swamp.
The more globalists that you bring into this administration, the more all that dirt isn't going to come out.
That's true.
I think the
more it's going to get held under.
Yes, it is.
The main reason why Trump picked William Barr, in my opinion, is because he had already been the Secretary of State, not Secretary of State. What is he? The Department of Justice. And he was voted unanimously by both parties.
He's going to be the Attorney General.
Yeah, the Attorney
General.
The
Attorney General, guys. Come on.
It's true. It's true. I mean, the one thing that I what out of the funeral procession and proceedings that bothered me was, did you see that handoff that George gave to Michelle?
The candy?
Yeah, the candy.
The Werthers?
The candy? Dude, it looked like a coin to me. And somebody had posted on a thread in talking about that topic. They actually posted it's a coin. It's a $50 or silver dollar. A silver dollar coin, and it's actually a little SD case. It's two halves, and you can put it together, and you can put an SD drive in it. A little SD card.
How do they know that? I couldn't even see past his hand.
They slowed it down and went in on one of the videos real tight. It looks like a coin. It does not look like a candy.
Well, the joke was because when they
what was it?
Well, when they first went to the White House and Bush welcomed them in, he was chewing on a Werther's, and she said, "That's my favorite candy."
And she said, "This is my partner in crime." They hated each other.
Look, there's a lot of yeah, I know that whole scene.
Now they're
funeral.
Partners in crime. It was like all the globalists sitting together, and then you had the Trumps on the end.
Yeah, well, and Hillary, she was really real class act.
Bill was smiling.
He looked like, and she. Did you see the video where she looked like she was going to have another seizure? CV, and she was looking up to the skylighting.
Yeah, so
I'm like, oh, here she goes. She's gonna slip on another banana peel on the way out.
Exactly.
She's on heavy cough suppressant.
But there's a lot of there's a lot of shakeups going on right now in the Trump administration. Before he got on Air Force One just the other day, he talked about the fact that John Kelly's on his way out, the chief of staff, and that maybe Mike Pence's chief of staff will be replacing him, Nick Ayers, but they're not sure about that yet. So
yeah,
I don't know. We'll see.
I also want
a lot of shakeups.
I also wanted to say that Pelosi and Schumer accused Trump of picking the most political hack that he could find for Attorney General, and meanwhile, William Barr was, voted unanimously.
That's true. Listen, we're going to go to break, but before we do, we are going to come back and talk about nationalism being on the rise around the world. And does it spell trouble for the globalists? France is going bonkers. They are rising up against this whole socialist agenda that is going on in their country. Don't turn the dial. Freedom on Deck. Welcome back to Freedom on Deck on 94.9 News Now and Stimulating Talk. Redneck here, mean one, the fearless one, ready to roll. So, France is going crazy, and it's a story that we've seen kind of around the world in different areas. I even saw where they're having protests in Britain. Asking for Donald Trump, make Britain great again, and it's catching on, and I think people are realizing that their sovereignty is being destroyed. It's being attacked. And in Paris on Saturday, you had tourist sites closed, amid fears that that there was going to be more street violence, which there was from the old yellow vest anti-government protesters. And, across France, 89,000 police officers were on duty with armored vehicles to be deployed in the capital. Prime Minister Edouard Philippe announced. I guess he's basically like the mayor of Paris, I guess.
Yep.
And that police had urged shops and restaurants to close, and because they knew this was coming. And this all comes because Macron has put on insane gas taxes. I mean, they're taxed to death in Europe as it is. If you're in the EU or live in a country that is part of the EU, you're taxed to death. I mean, it's like 50 or 60%. I mean,
it's socialism.
It's socialism.
Yeah.
And then on top of it, they're going to put on a tax for fuel. Now, if anybody understands fuel over in Europe, fuel there. I mean, here. I just paid $2.60 a gallon today.
Yeah.
Okay. Over there, it's like 7 something.
I know.
Which is meaning
our
equivalent of
right.
our currency,
right.
7 something over there, and you're talking about an imperial gallon, which is smaller than a U.S. gallon.
Well,
it's crazy.
It's not only about that. The problem is over in France and in Europe and Germany and all over the place is that the common people are hit with these high taxes.
Correct.
And hit with high food prices. To get food over there, it's like double the pricing. And the majority of the world is in poverty. Meanwhile, the political elite live in mansions enjoying luxury and creating programs that they use to embezzle and steal for themselves.
Right.
That's how socialism works.
Like Venezuela.
Meanwhile, they say everybody's going to be treated equal. Meanwhile, everybody in the middle class has to pay, like you said, $8 a gallon for gasoline. You got to spend $6 for a gallon of milk. So how are you living?
Right.
You're not even living paycheck for paycheck. The government then gives all these social programs out to these refugees. But by the way, Macron said that they're bringing in another couple thousand of refugees from Syria and these squalling nations over in the Middle East.
Dude, that guy is
that's a sore
scum.
point.
So you see, it's not just about this gas tax.
Right.
It's about their way of life being destroyed. Don't forget all the terrorist attacks that have happened over in Paris over the last few years.
Charlie Hebdo.
They arrested thousands, not hundreds, thousands of high school age students.
Yeah.
Thousands. They had them on their knees with their hands behind their head on their back. And riot gear, they had them all rounded up. I mean, it was crazy. It's martial law is basically what they've put in place.
The police aren't allowed to have guns. You've got Islamic...
No, they had guns, bro.
Well, yeah, the riot police, when they come in, do. Yeah. But the everyday cops aren't allowed to carry weapons.
Yeah.
What I'm saying is it's a and you had that attack in the theater where they were actually cutting women's genitals off, these Islamic fascists, and you have no-go zones in France.
And cutting off men's testicles and sticking it in
And by
their
the way,
mouths.
CV, there's Jews actually fleeing France because of the rise of... But nobody talks about it. And if you talk about it, they call you Islamophobic and shut you down on the internet. Yep. You tell me where there's justice in that.
And just to inform you, we have it right here. I believe it was in Oregon that the governor wants to put in place, trying to think of a
hotline to call? Is that what you're talking about?
I wish it was a hotline to call. I just lost my train of thought. But the socialist agenda is happening here in America.
Oh, of course it is.
Okay, and it's getting out of control with the way that you say something and your speech is under attack. You believe in something and your religious holiday is under attack. These socialist ideas are infiltrating our country. Now, it's not on the level that it is in the EU right now, okay? Because we don't have an influx of the amount of Muslims that are coming from these refugee countries like Syria and whatnot. But you look at, I'm telling you, the next one that's going to be is Yemen. Because they were reporting on it yesterday morning about how Yemen and how many millions of people are starving. They had, they were showing these like little makeshift villages and stuff that they've put together, and clearly these kids are starving. They're skin and bones. You know what I mean? But nobody wants to talk about why that is. You know what I'm saying? It's a terrorist nation,
right?
And nationalism being on the rise is great for the entire planet because it's like capitalism. When nations compete with other nations, it improves their economy, sort of like how products are improved, prices are better when companies can compete with each other and nations can compete against each other. So it's really great for every nation to have that kind of nationalism. It's great. It's a good thing. It's healthy.
Well, it's a good thing, CV, and we saw it happening over in Mexico when the Honduran caravan came in and the people of Mexico stood up and said, get the hell out of here. Trump was right. This is an invasion, and called it for what it was. And the president of Mexico let it happen. I got into a discussion with someone we all know on Facebook, and he said, well, that's what they elected, and that's the elector's choice. Give me a break. You think that countries in a third world country like Mexico, that he was elected? The cartels put him in.
Yeah, absolutely.
Come on, man. Don't be a knucklehead.
And look at you got to look at the videos of these guys, man. They got brand new iPhone 10s and stuff like that. Give me a break. They're destitute.
Yeah, and
how's he paying that bill every month?
I'm not wearing Polo Ralph Lauren.
And did you see the one? Remember the woman that had she was saying that this is what pigs eat, the food, and she was holding it up. Well, they just found her in Texas, out in Dallas, eating at a restaurant, high class, with her whole family.
Oh yeah,
the same woman.
And this one came in, gave birth, and now she's got an anchor baby. It was all over the news.
And did you see the British saying we want Trump?
Just give him a good sailor name.
Make Britain great again. Did you see that? They're wearing red hats saying make Britain great again.
Yes,
that's what we were just saying before. This nationalist.
And in Paris, in France, it's happening too. Yep. And it's funny, the mainstream media tries to make it look like Trump's this boogeyman throughout the Western world over in Europe, and that's just not true. It's bull. The BBC's lying to you, and CNN, they're lying to you too, folks. Believe me.
Trump stands for the common folk.
The common folk over there are being raped.
Oh yeah.
By migrants that don't even know how to speak in their own language.
Like we were.
Yeah. The people are fighting for more than just a gas tax hike. Believe me.
No, I'm just saying that this is what sparked it, but it's the straw that broke the camel's back. Let's say that.
Right.
Absolutely.
That's how it is.
But what I hope happens is I hope that Macron really feels it. I hope it gets worse.
Well, he rolled back the tax. I mean, he's not gonna bring out the tax, but it's gonna happen later.
He's in hiding.
It will happen later.
He's not even making any interviews. He's totally hiding.
Because he's a coward.
And then they got, and in Canada, they're enforcing this carbon tax. It's all about grabbing all your money. It has nothing to do with global warming or climate change or any of that garbage.
Right.
Nothing. So just watch what you're doing out there, folks. Pay attention to everybody that's out there. Listen, we're going to come back. We have Jamie Glazov. He is the editor from Front Page Magazine and author of Jihadist Psychopath. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back to Freedom on Deck on 94.9 News Now and Stimulating Talk. Connecticut, Long Island, and Rhode Island. You're rocking with the best here on your Sunday. Listen, make sure you go to FreedomOnDeck.com. Check out our midweek podcast. Check out our terrestrial radio show. All the backtracks are there for you. You can also like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, subscribe to our BitChute, YouTube. You know where to go. It's all there for you. So listen, there's a new book coming out, and the release date is December the 18th. And Dennis Prager calls Jihadist Psychopath one of the most important books of our present time. And our first guest holds a PhD in history with a specialty in Russian, U.S., and Canadian foreign policy. He is the editor of Front Page magazine and the author of the critically acclaimed United in Hate, The Left's Romance with Tyranny and Terror, and host of the web TV show The Glazov Gang. His new book is Jihadist Psychopath. How he is charming, seducing, and devouring us. The one and only Jamie Glazov. Dr. Glazov, thanks for coming on the program.
Thank you so much. I love introductions like that. It's an honor to be here.
I stumbled a little bit. I write out the interviews, and sometimes I stumble, but, it happens. So
I just puffed my chest out about 20 inches. Thank you so much.
No problem. So, okay, so with everything you do at Front Page Magazine and hosting your own show, The Glazov Gang, you keep churning out these fantastic books. United in Hate was a national bestseller, so tell our listeners about the new book, Jihadist Psychopath.
Well, thank you so much, Chet. Look, over the years, I'm interested in the left and how it aids and abets our enemies. This is something I've dedicated my life to because my parents escaped the Soviet Union, so that story becomes very obvious. It's a child of immigrants who loves America, and as I was growing up, I see what the left is and what it's up to. So I've been studying psychopaths for many years, and I'm studying the steps that they engage in, and I see that exactly how the psychopath romances and seduces and devours his victims is exactly the same way as I was studying jihad and Islam, in the way that Islam is now devouring the West. And so in this book, I show that the steps are exactly the same.
Jamie, speaking of that, why are groups like the Women's March and LGBTQ activist groups blind to the dangers of Islamic supremacists? As a matter of fact, they seem to have been seduced by them.
Well, absolutely. And look, here's the thing, that rhetorically we can say that they're blind because it appears at first sight, that they're blind, that they don't see it. But when you begin to understand the left better, we begin to see that there's actually malice involved here, because it cannot be a coincidence. This can't just be, something that just happens. That it just so happens that leftist feminists are so upset about the abuse of women, but when it's the abuse of women under Islam, they're never interested. So there's a malicious component involved here, because this is what the left is. But overall, leftist feminists are at war with their own society, and their concern, quote unquote, about women is only a tool and a weapon with which they can beat their own society. They're not really interested in the rights of women, because if they were, they'd be standing up for Asia Bibi right now in Pakistan.
Right.
So they want the destruction of their own society, and it is against their interests to admit the evil of an adversary system. Because if you admit the evil of an adversary, you might have to end up saying this: our society is worth defending and protecting. That's anathema to them. So they have to ally with the enemy rather than defend this society against the enemy.
Jamie, in the Women's March, we see the always present Linda Sarsour of CARE screaming the loudest, and she always is present when something goes down. Is CARE and members of CARE like Sarsour a good example of an Islamic supremacist psychopath?
Yes, on many levels. Look, I'll say this, that, for instance, in the psychopath's arsenal, there's many things that psychopaths do. Psychopaths, for instance, are professionals in punching you in the face and then telling you what a hard day they've had, and you have to feel sorry for them. Okay, they punch you in the face, then you have to apologize to them. This is one of the key components, and I show many, many components. There's all kinds of stuff that breaks out later. They're the victim. Then once they have you trapped, they make you look bad in front of other people. They make up a fictitious past. They never say sorry. There's a whole bunch of ingredients here. But just even one, when you hear Linda Sarsour speaking, when you hear Keir speaking, oh, wow, are they the oppressed? Are they the victims? And this is crucial. And so, yes, they are, because when you watch what's happening, Chet, this is the psychopath, and he's very, very successful. Just watch what's happening after every jihadist attack. Jihad strikes, unbelievers are killed, and then all of a sudden in the media, what are they reporting? The Muslim community is very worried about a backlash. Those are the stories on CNN and in the establishment media. You see what's happening here?
Yeah.
They're killing us, but they're the victims afterwards. They're pouting and sulking. They're the ones that are being unfairly treated. That's the way that psychopaths work, and Linda Sarsour and Keir are always using this victim card.
And then they scream Islamophobia if you say anything about these terrorist attacks. And, you know, Islamophobic or Islamophobia is a term made up by the left. I mean, it's would you agree with me there?
Well, absolutely. It's definitely a term that is used to silence critics. And this is one of the biggest lies, Chet, because look, I work for the David Horowitz Freedom Center. David Horowitz, for years and years, has been standing up for persecuted and oppressed Muslim women and girls under Islamic gender apartheid. And this man is slandered and libeled as a Muslim hater. How can he be a Muslim hater if he's on the front lines fighting for the rights of Muslim people under Islamic law? For instance, Annie Cyrus, who's the producer of my show, The Glazov Gang, she is a former child bride in Iran that escaped Iran and now has dedicated her life to trying to save and protect Muslim women and girls who suffer under Sharia. And of course, she's trying to protect the West and all people from jihad and Sharia. But one of the main goals is to defend the Muslims suffering under Sharia. We love Muslim people and we fight for Muslim people. And yet, when we are trying to stop little girls from being generally mutilated by Islamic law, and we're fighting on behalf of Muslim girls, they point the finger at us and say that we hate Muslims. You see how they work? We're the ones that love Muslims and are fighting for them. They don't fight for them, but yet they point the finger at us that we're the haters. They're very shrewd, and they are succeeding because people are afraid to be called racist and Islamophobe and bigots, and so they're silencing our society and our culture.
We have Jamie Glazov, editor for Front Page Magazine and author of the new book, Jihadist Psychopath, which will be released December the 18th, and you can pre-order it right now. You can go do it on Amazon and other outlets, too. Now, Jamie, we see a rise in Muslims winning congressional seats in Minnesota, Michigan, and elsewhere. What kind of danger does this impose on the American citizen?
Well, it's a huge danger because once again the finger would be pointed at us and say, "Oh, are you against minorities from gaining power? Are you against brown people from gaining power? Are you racist?" You know, these are all these cards that they use, these slanders that they use. This has nothing to do with race. It's got nothing to do with being against minorities. It's got nothing to do with any of that. And by the way, Islam is not even a color. The problem is if a person gets into office, do they respect the U.S. Constitution? Yes or no? And if you pursue this questioning with devout Muslims who say that their belief is that Sharia law should supplant the U.S. Constitution, it's a very serious issue.
Yeah.
And so we have an infiltration happening here. They're doing it in the political sphere. They're starting to get members of, they have their members entering now Congress. And there, as we know, there's also Hijra, and that's jihad by immigration. So what they do is they also flood our territory in numbers. And when the followers of this religion of peace are the minority, they say how tolerant they are and how they love everybody. But once the numbers exceed the unbelievers, a very different story happens. So yes, it's happening on all levels, and it's very, very dangerous.
Jamie, why do you think liberals embrace Islam when the ideology is against everything they hold dear, like diversity, homosexuality, women's rights, the right to choose, all those things? Islam goes directly against. So why are they so willing to absorb the idea of Islam?
Well, I dedicated my life to understanding this and to explaining it. Your question is perfect and very important in the sense that rhetorically it describes the picture that we see up front, but it's not really true because the picture that they have drawn is not real. Islam is not at odds with the left. It's at odds with the mask of the left, but it's not at odds with the left because what the left is a malicious, destructive movement that wants to destroy this democratic host capitalist society. They want to destroy this society. They hate freedom. They hate liberty. They hate individualism. I documented in United in Hate how the left was so gleeful after 9/11 because you see, ground zero are the ashes upon which they will build their classless utopia. They want destruction here. And upon that destruction, leftists are going to build their paradise, their classless paradise. But guess what? Other people who want to destroy their society are helping them. So they have a lot in common because, number one, they will help the adversary culture destroy this society just like they want to destroy this society. And in the end, the left is also very totalitarian. It's a totalitarian-minded movement. And totalitarians very much love one another on many levels. So they have a lot in common in terms of totalitarianism.
Jamie, the reviews that Jihadist Psychopath have received are posted on Amazon from the likes of Ambassador John Bolton, Dennis Prager, Robert Spencer, a good friend of ours that comes on the show, Gert Wilders, and so many more, and all are extremely complimentary and powerful. Tell our listeners the best way to pre-order the book and the website to go to in order to check out all that you have to offer them, Jamie.
Well, thank you so much. It is such an honor for me that I got this praise from Trump's national security advisor, John Bolton, now, and Geert Wilders, and like you said, Dennis Prager. It's just such an honor because I've worked so long in trying to really put something out here, and I think I've done something very original and groundbreaking because, Chet, once we get the knowledge of how to get off the Jihadist Psychopath's plantation, we can protect our civilization effectively. Look, you can go to jamieglazov.com. You can go to amazon.com and just get Jihadist Psychopath. Go to Front Page Magazine and watch my show Glazov Gang. It's all out there, and I really encourage people to get it.
Everybody, that was the one and only Dr. Jamie Glazov. And make sure that you go and pre-order the Jihadist Psychopath. And the release date's December 18th. But pre-order it now because the book is really, really important. Next, we're going to be coming out with the Clinton whistleblowers and also someone that was speaking with the DOJ and said he knows where the bodies are. Unreal. This was on Zero Hedge, and we're going to talk about it. Come on back to Freedom on Deck.
Welcome back to Freedom on Deck on 94.9 News Now and Stimulating Talk. Check us out on Facebook and like us on Facebook. Follow us on Twitter. Go to freedomondeck.com and check out all that we have there. You gotta love that all of this now comes out 2 years after she's running for the presidency of the United States. But the Clinton Foundation whistleblowers, and there's quite a few, have come forward with hundreds of pages of evidence, Meadows says. 3 people have come forward with hundreds of pages of evidence of potential wrongdoing by the Clinton Foundation, including misappropriation of funds and allegations of quid pro quo promises made to donors during Hillary Clinton's tenure as Secretary of State. Mark Meadows, Republican from North Carolina, told Fox News on Thursday. Meadows, the leader of the conservative House Freedom Caucus, is also the chairman of the House Oversight Subcommittee on Government Operations. You know, it's kind of crazy that this is coming out now, but Donald Trump did say that he had a bomb to drop. I wonder, is this the bomb?
I don't think this is the bomb.
Is it part of it?
It could be part of it. There's a lot of whistles being blown during the Clinton years in the White House, don't forget.
Oh, yeah.
One in particular.
Especially in the Oval Office.
So when I hear whistle blowing and it has to do with the Clintons, my head goes somewhere else. But, you know, this is interesting, too, and it kind of ties in. And this is coming from Zero Hedge. The CFO of the Clinton Foundation, thinking he was meeting an old professional acquaintance, admitted to investigators that the charity had widespread problems with governance, accounting, and conflicts of interest, and that Bill Clinton had been committing business and personal expenses for a long time, reports the Hill's John Solomon. Clinton Foundation CEO, his name is Andrew Kessel, made the admission to investigators from MDA and Analytics, a firm run by accomplished ex-federal criminal investigators who have been probing the Clinton Foundation for some time. Kessel told MDA, "There is no controlling Bill Clinton. He does whatever he wants and runs up incredible expenses with foundation funds, like Chelsea's wedding when they took it from the Haitian hurricane victims." According to MDA's account of the interview, Bill Clinton mixes and matches his personal business with that of the foundation. Many people within the foundation have tried to caution him about this, but he does not listen, and there really is no talking to him. MDA compiled Kessel's statements as well as over 6,000 pages of evidence from a whistleblower they had been working on separately with when they secretly filed with the FBI and IRS over a year ago. MDA has alleged that the Clinton Foundation engaged in illegal activities and may owe millions of unpaid taxes and penalties. But the most interesting thing he was caught admitting was, "I know where all the bodies are buried."
Literally.
That's what he said to the investigator. Now, I know where all the bodies are buried. And then he continued on telling them that the Clinton Foundation does hit jobs. It's a shocker.
Oh, it doesn't shock me. And, I think the Clintons' days are numbered. I don't know if it's going to be sooner than it is later. But, you see it in their tour. They're doing this big tour now around the country. And their ticket sales, for their speaking tour,
right,
were $300 a seat.
I know.
They're now at $11.
And did you see that it's also on Groupon?
Yeah, it's on Groupon.
You can get some sweet Clinton seats for $11 and a little more off with the Groupon ticket.
Exactly. So, obviously they're hurting. And I think people listen. The Clinton dynasty and everything that the Clintons have to offer, people are sick of it.
CV, of course they're hurting. They left the White House with nothing.
Yeah,
except all the White House furniture
and China.
China. But the expression "where all the bodies are buried" is usually just an expression,
right?
But in this case, it could be very literal because the bodies. The trail of bodies behind the Clintons.
Well, then he also
notorious.
said the Clinton hit list.
Oh,
right.
So, those two, and you could say hit list could mean something else too, but to use those together, come on.
But, the pay to play under Hillary's tenure as Secretary of State can be best summed up under Uranium One, which is not the least of which exemplifies that pay to play policy that they had in place.
Oh, yeah. Once Uranium One went through and they got all that uranium, ours, by the way, all of a sudden monies were showing up in Bill Clinton's bank account from the Russians
And isn't it interesting
for
how
speaking fees.
Do you think?
Mueller was involved in all that too?
Right? Yeah. Yes, he was. Thank you.
Do you guys think that one of the hits or where the bodies are buried, so to speak, in that hit list? Do you think one of them is Seth Rich?
Oh
yes, definitely.
Absolutely.
Do you think that the whistleblowers might have information and have told the FBI?
Yes.
Because what scares me about it is that the FBI, the Clintons are so entrenched with the FBI.
Yes.
I mean, come on, they were having meetings on the tarmac during the presidential run. Let's not forget that.
Oh yeah. When he met the
Loretta Lynch.
Loretta Lynch, the Attorney General at the time.
Exactly. So I mean, and it wasn't long after Seth Rich died that meeting happened.
Oh, they were just talking about golf and
So
grandkids.
I'm just saying. So
That meeting was recorded too by the NSA. Don't be mistaken about that. And that might be the bomb that Trump has.
That's possible too.
I don't think the bombs all have to do with Hillary. I think Trump has. I think one of the things that
Spygate,
Trump has, and one of the big bombshells, is going to be this slush fund that Congress pays into to prevent women from coming forward with these sexual assault claims.
It's possible,
I think it's
but the
part of it.
Republicans have that too.
Yeah, but I bet you it's more Democrats. I bet you it is.
They're paying out Spirit dinner tickets left and right.
Mm-hmm.
I think it has more to do with Spygate myself.
It could have a lot to do with Spygate. I think it encompasses all these things that we talk about every week.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we'll see. We will see.
Hopefully he'll release it, because last week, and Bush died conveniently. I'm sorry to say it that way, but HW died. Perfect timing, because Trump was the one that tweeted, I'll release all this information. Then on Hannity that week, remember I told you that Hannity said that Monday there was this big bombshell coming? It never came. Because you're not going to release that bombshell when you got this Mueller crap winding down, and you got Cohen pleading guilty, and then you also have the president dying.
Is it winding down?
I think it is. Yeah.
We'll see. I don't know if it's
It's
winding
what
down.
the experts tell me.
I'm just saying. I'll believe it when I see it, because listen, we haven't seen any justice for what the Clintons have done. Do you really think they're just going to wind it down? Listen, if there is a stone that could be turned, they will turn it before they wind it down.
Yeah, I agree. But
Just saying.
But it's this proclamation by this gentleman on Zero Hedge is disturbing. I mean, there are bodies out there, and a lot of them.
Oh, absolutely. Well, you think
This is like mafia.
You think UN ambassadors that are jacked just have barbells of weights fall on their neck and kill themselves?
No, that doesn't happen.
Yeah.
Only to who is that senator?
Don't worry
Got
about
beat
that,
up
Senator.
okay.
Don't worry about it.
Listen, we're going to come back with the producer of the Trump Prophecy, Rick Eldridge. You're not going to want to miss this. This is an important movie that's out. Come on back to Freedom on Deck. Welcome back to Freedom on Deck, 94.9 News Now and Stimulating Talk. You're rocking with the best in Long Island, Connecticut, and Rhode Island. Go to freedomondeck.com and check out everything that we have to offer you there. And it's a lot. Midweek podcast, backtracks of the terrestrial radio program, and of course, all of our social media. Listen, our next guest is the producer of the new movie, The Trump Prophecy, from Real Work Studios, Rick Eldridge. Rick, welcome to Freedom on Deck.
Hey, great to be with you.
Well, I'm so happy to have you on, because I've been interested in this movie for some time now. Now, the movie, The Trump Prophecy, was inspired by best-selling book, The Trump Prophecies, which was co-authored by a former Florida firefighter, Mark Taylor, who received a message from God that Donald Trump was headed to the White House. Tell our listeners how the story unfolds, Rick.
Well, of course, he is a veteran fireman, and after 20 years on the force, you can imagine going in and out of fires and dealing with the issues that he had to deal with, very much like being on the front line of a battle. He was retiring from the force and was beginning to have some nightmares, some dreams, almost PTSD-like, if you will. So 3 o'clock in the morning one night, he's up, can't sleep, kind of channel surfing, and sees this guy talking to some international business people, and kind of recognized the voice and got this premonition. And the key thing here is this was April 2011, and he picks his diary up and writes Donald Trump, president, with a big question mark, like, really? Of course, that was the beginning of what became the Trump prophecy as he began to write that out. It kind of unfolded. And of course, as we know today, it happened. In 2011, Trump didn't even run for the office. And, Obama had his second term, and things moved along. And so he just kind of forgot about it. But then at the end of 15, going into 16, he's doing some treatment for his dreams and his PTSD, and the doctor he was dealing with, sharing his diary, said, "Wow, this is an interesting entry here. Can I share this with my wife?" Who was kind of an international connector of business and media and some faith leaders. And the story that really got my attention was through this lady became a movement of prayer across the nation. As this lady started a national prayer movement, and it's pretty phenomenal. And of course, we know that was a big part of the election and the way it evolved with the faith community getting behind Donald Trump. So I thought that was a phenomenal story, and the message was kind of a point of healing for him. And I think also the message was a point of healing for our nation at that particular time. They were kind of grabbing for what can change, what can be different. And so this prayer movement was really more about bringing people together around the fact that we need to respect the office and we need to pray for those in authority over us. So that's kind of where the story takes place and how it goes.
Now, Rick, it's called The Commander-in-Chief Prophecy when Mark Taylor said that he was watching an interview with Donald Trump, and it was the Lord that spoke to him. And said, "You're hearing the voice of the next president." So it was actually, he in his heart believed that the Lord was communicating to him that this would be eventually be the commander-in-chief for a reason.
That's right. And I think that was part of his healing too, to know that, here am I, very low self-worth, not feeling good about himself. And why would God speak to somebody like me with a message that really could bring about change in our world? And so, it became part of a healing for him as well, I think, in that point.
Now, starring in the role as Mark is Chris Nelson.
Right.
Now, what was it like working with him? Because I've only watched the trailer. I'm going to get the digital version. I know it has already been in the theaters in October.
Right.
But he seemed like a real talented guy. What was it like working with Chris?
Chris was fantastic. Chris, we of course, anytime you do a casting, you have hundreds of people that come through and try for a role. And Chris really didn't. I didn't know about him, but I felt like we really didn't have the right mark. And one of my producing associates mentioned him to me, and he was actually the head of the theater department at Liberty University at the time, and so he was very involved in a lot of stage work, and also had done some theater and TV work in the past as well. And so we had him come in, and he read for about 15 minutes, and it was wow, he's the guy. He's got the look, he has the attitude and the feel, and when you know that, that's the guy.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of how and he was fantastic to work with. He really became part of the role, and like most actors do, if they're good, they become the character.
Yeah.
And he had a real sense of study of Mark and who he was, and I think came across very well in the role.
I thought the scenes where he was waking up from the reoccurring nightmares and dealing with PTSD and the confrontation with the demon, he just looked so believable to me. It was like watching. It was like watching Mark's life in front of your eyes. So I commend you for the film. I think the film is something that everybody should go check out.
Thank you. Well, we're really excited about the level of excellence with the demon character that the guy that played that role went through 6 hours of prosthetics every day before we started shooting. So.
And frightening. He is frightening looking in that film, I'll tell you.
Well, we wanted it to be as authentic as possible, and telling a story like this about a character like Trump, we knew we were going to get shot at, and we said, you know what, we better be good, and we better at least do it with excellence, because we're there. You know where you're at. People draw a line in the sand, and they're on one side or the other. But our hope was that this film would kind of give us a new perspective, and maybe be even a sense of healing and unity to some extent in our world. It's really kind of a divided country right now.
Yeah, and the mainstream media, have you gotten any negative feedback from them? Because I know obviously they tried to quell the film because it's of the what it's about. So how do you feel about the feedback from the media?
The people that have had negative have responded to the title, and they haven't seen the film. I've found, and of course now that it's out and has been in the theaters, and it's been #1 as a digital release from the day we put it up on our site. And once people see the film, there's a little different feel for it. I think there is a respect for the story and for the way it was told. I think with the integrity that was told, and I think that maybe the title gave them a different sense of what this might be. And once they've seen the film, the response has been very good. So when people come at me negatively with the title, the first question is, have you seen the film? And the answer is usually no.
Right.
And I say, watch the movie and come back to me, and I'll be happy to talk with you and answer any questions you got. And the response has always been different at that point.
Rick, I checked out this story, and it's very fascinating. I mean, there are a lot of points of similarity between what was prophesied and what actually happened, obviously. Right. But how does Trump's story end?
Well, the way the film goes, we tell Mark's story, and of course, the ending of the dramatic feature with Mark and with Mary Colbert, the doctor and his wife, is at election night, and Trump becomes president, and they realize that, well, Mark actually says, boy, maybe I'm not crazy after all. But we kind of turned the corner there. We wrote a song for the movie called "The Greater Good," which really talks about the sacrifices and the history of our nation and the foundational principles of our nation. And it kind of turns the corner to what I call kind of a reflective conversation. So this becomes kind of more of a media experience. And I've got 15 world leaders from all over the world. The former communications director for Netanyahu, former president of Ashton Martin, General Boykin, who ran Desert Storm, talking about what does it really mean for America to be great? What does it mean economically? As we have an international business guy, and what does it mean to the Middle East? What does it mean specifically to Israel? We've got the communications director talking about that. But from various different aspects of world affairs, so we kind of have a broader picture of what a strong America really means to the world. So the point is to leave the story on a very high note of what can we do? We can pray. We can support the office and support those in authority. If we don't like what's happening, maybe we ought to pray more. But the point is understanding the blessing that we have of just being in a nation like ours, and so many good things that are a part of that, the sacrifices that people made to give us what we have today. And we found that people left the theater with a real sense of understanding that and encouragement in that. One of the crazy things that happened, I got calls from all over the country, from groups that would have random prayer right after the movie. I mean, small groups to, I went one theater in Nashville. Most of our theaters sold out all over America. In Nashville, Tennessee, I got a story of one lady who stood up in the back at the end of the movie. Everybody applauded, and she says, "We should pray now." And she began praying the Lord's Prayer.
Wow.
And here's a whole room full of strangers that have just experienced this movie together, that one by one began to follow this lady and a whole in unison praying the Lord's Prayer. Just a phenomenal story.
To pray for his protection, right?
Yeah. And so we've had that all over the country that's happened, and that's not anything that I expected. That's very spontaneous. So very excited to see people respond in a positive way to that.
And it's a movie that's bringing people together, which is even, greater.
Absolutely.
So we have Rick Eldridge, the producer of the Trump Prophecy. Now, Rick, Mark Taylor was the son and grandson of Baptist pastors, correct?
That's right.
The film details Taylor's struggles with stuff like depression, insomnia, which we were kind of talking about before, PTSD, and suicidal thoughts. In the film, when he confronts this demon, what were these claims made by Mark himself, or was it? What I'm asking is, and I don't want to say this in a bad way, was anything embellished, or was this the story? You stuck to the story.
We did. I mean, we told the story. I mean, some of the dreams that Mark had were amazing. I mean, we couldn't tell them all, but we picked certain things that happened. There's one specific dream. You say we took I guess probably a little bit of liberty in that. In his dream, as he told it, and our writers spent a lot of time with Mark talking through this. He actually began writing in the carpet. It said, and this was at a time when he had finally realized that I can't do this on my own, and he began to pray to God, God help me overcome this. And it was at that moment that he really saw a breakthrough, in himself, and he starts to write the scripture in the carpet.
Wow.
Well, as we saw the movie, we had this, experience where we have this kind of, fire demon, we call it, coming out of the ceiling of his bedroom, and an out-of-body of experience where Mark is kind of floating in the air. I had him write it in the sky, writing it just right in the, and this is something that we did, spontaneous really while we were shooting. And then we burned it into kind of into the air as it was, and the demon sees that, and it just kind of sends him away. And the scripture even was something that I kind of came up with while we were there, because Mark didn't tell me what scripture that he had used and what he was writing in the floor. But it was, "No weapon formed against me shall prosper," which is a biblical scripture. And so I that just kind of came to me, and so we did that, and those are some of the things we did to kind of enhance the process. But his dreams were incredibly graphic, and some of them I don't know that we could have really depicted in a proper way.
Right.
But it was a fun way to do it. It was a challenge, and to see it come together as well as it did, we were very pleased.
Well, Rick, the movie was in theaters this last October, but our listeners can go purchase it in digital form. So tell us where they can go and do that, please.
They can go to the TrumpProphecyMovie.com and pick it up now, either on online as a download or as a rental, either way.
Excellent, everybody. That was Rick Eldridge, the producer of the Trump Prophecy movie, and you're going to want to go and check that out. Trust me, I plan on doing it myself. But listen, everybody needs to come back, because there's a Minnesota professor who says that the Virgin Mary didn't give God consent. Unbelievable. Liberalism truly is a mental disorder. Everybody, come on back to Freedom on Deck.
Welcome back to Freedom on Deck on 94.9 News Now and Stimulating Talk. You are rocking with the best, and we always bring you the weirdest of topics. This one is pretty good. Mark Stein Blast, a Minnesota State University Mankato professor, who criticized the biblical Christmas story as one in which God wrongfully impregnated Saint Mary without consent. Dr. Eric Sprankle, a professor of clinical psychology, of course,
Nutcase.
wrote that the virgin birth story is about an all-knowing, all-powerful deity impregnating a human teen. There is no definition of consent that would include that scenario. Happy holidays.
This guy, Professor Kankle from Minnesota, or Sprankle.
Gankle.
I'll tell you.
Sprinkle.
There are other things there's other things that he put out on Twitter to upset Christians. He put a satanic star at the top of his Christmas tree.
A lot of Satanist stuff.
Demonic ornaments. He's a
Satanist.
He's a Satanist, and he's also trying to, rub people's nose in his stupid belief and creating this. First of all, he obviously doesn't know anything about the verse because the consent is in there. God didn't force himself to marry. That was
an angel came to her,
right?
Said that you would bear a child,
right? There's no demand there. There's no force. So this guy's just another left-wing nutbag that hates Christianity and hates Christmas, obviously.
And let's keep it in mind: the Creator doesn't need permission from the created.
Well, I texted Sprinkle back, and I said, it clearly says in Luke, behold, Mary said, behold, the handmaid of the Lord, be it unto me according to thy word. That's consent. The guy has poor reading comprehension.
Did you call him Sprinkle?
Spank me, Sprinkle.
His name is Sprankle. But you were talking about the satanic stuff. Is that his Twitter profile includes the phrase "Avenue Satana" and "Hail Satan." Also tweeting a photo of a Christmas tree decorated with satanic ornaments.
Yeah.
Yes, that's what I was talking about with the satanic star.
You're like
atop.
Yeah, an upside down pentagram.
Yes.
Yeah.
Why do you have a Christmas tree if you're a Satanist?
Well, I guess, that's,
like to pervert.
that's part of it.
Like to pervert.
But what's sick and what you should really be focusing on is the fact that this guy's a professor in a college.
Oh, dude, he's probably...
Thank you.
Yeah, we've got plenty of them. How many of these professors are attacking Christianity every day?
I told my niece today that America was the greatest country there was in the world, and she looked at me in the rearview mirror and was like, no, it's not.
What?
And I was like, excuse me?
Where did this happen?
I was like, what's that? Your teacher's teaching you that? Oh, yeah.
Really?
Oh, yeah, it was a conversation. And then, of course, I took the opportunity to tell her why we are the greatest country in the world.
Good for you.
Yeah, this is the...
But that's coming from a 12-year-old in middle school.
Yeah.
And that's what they're teaching your kids.
Oh, of course they are.
Brainwashing.
You're going to teach... But listen... And the thing is, people can't get their kids out of these public schools.
Oh, yes, they can.
I can't do it. How?
Yes, well, I'm just saying.
How am I
there
gonna do
is
it? You tell
homeschooling.
me.
There is other avenues. But if you can do it, do it.
What if you can't?
If you can't, then you got to be immersed into what they're being taught. You have to be, because there's no other way to do it. If you're just sitting back and letting them do it, it's going to be a bad look.
Listen, we got to come back. We're going to be talking about a judge ordering that Clinton email case be reopened.
Oh, yeah.
Come on back to FOD.
Oh, yeah. It's time to play the game. We're going to play the Hillary Clinton email game because a federal judge just ordered the Justice and State Departments Thursday to reopen an inquiry into the whether Hillary Clinton used a private email server while Secretary of State to deliberately evade public record laws, to answer whether the agency acted in bad faith by not telling a court for months that they had asked in mid-2014 for missing emails to be returned. The order risks reopening partisan wounds that have been barely healed since Clinton's unsuccessful 2016 presidential bid. but an issue to order Thursday.
Partisan wounds. Ooh. Is that what we're worried about?
Not really.
I mean, are we worried about the fact that these demons have gotten away with everything from taking money from Haitian hurricane victims to pay for Chelsea Clinton's wedding to
Uranium One,
the selling of uranium to our enemies, to, and in my opinion, some very
pay for a dossier.
Yep, and the destruction of her private server, which we still, the only reason we ever got a hold of any of those emails was because of WikiLeaks.
Little bleach pit.
Which had to do with, in my opinion, satanic activities from the woman. Very destructive. The Clintons are very destructive to our way of life.
And the
America.
FBI never looked at the server. It was looked at by a private company that was located in Russia, of all places.
That's true.
It's a Russian company that has the server.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And the FBI never looked at it. Never demanded to look at it.
Yeah.
It's absurd.
So what's going to happen here? Are we going to have some new breakthrough? Or just the same old rehash of let's take a look at everything. Everything's good. Or will we actually start to pick away at this because Donald Trump's putting in the right people?
Or will
right
Hillary
now.
die of the coup route before all that happens? We shall not know because as the world turns.
Yeah, listen, if you want to know where the real Russian collusion is, it's right with Hillary's emails.
Yes.
The Clintons, the Obama administration, that is the Russian collusion. The fact that uranium was sold to the Russians under his administration, that's the Russian connection. So all this nonsense with Russia and Mueller and all this it's a smokescreen. I mean, I think we all know that by now.
And who wrote the fake dossier?
How do
the
we
Russians.
prove it is the answer, is the question.
It's there.
You know?
The proof
How do
is
we
there.
prove it?
We can go straight to court and prosecute right now. There's so much freaking evidence. It's not even funny. There's no evidence
Hopefully-
about Trump collusion, though. Zero. But there's a lot of evidence about the Democrats, the DNC in Russia, and Mueller in Russia.
No, there is no Trump collusion because even now what they're rolling out is just all based on purely Paul Manafort and Cohen, and it has nothing to do with the campaign at all.
And Mueller's just going to
They
say...
have nothing.
Mueller's just going to say, we don't have anything because Cohen and Manafort are liars. They wouldn't cooperate. They're
yeah.
liars.
All right, let's ask this hypothetical question. Bill Barr gets into that position as Attorney General. Does he do anything?
Well, that's why I don't like him as the pick. Okay, that's why I don't like him, because he's a globalist.
He's a bushy.
He's a bushy. So that's why we were asking.
Is it
at the beginning
is
of
it the
show.
old skullduggery? Is it the old
Skull and Bones?
Is it the old Skull and Bones?
It might, yeah.
Isn't it funny that he made that pick though after the death of Daddy?
Yeah, yeah, that is interesting.
That is very interesting.
Yeah, and he worked under Daddy.
And and the timing of Daddy's death.
in the same position.
Well, what do you think that is?
I think that is, God, I hope it's not what my instinct, my gut says it is that it's you play by our rules and Mueller goes away.
That could be true.
That could be very true. Is that, hey, you're the president. Look, 2 more years. We don't do anything. This all goes away, but you got to put our people. You got to put the people that we tell you that we want in,
And you could tell at the funeral.
play by our rules.
You could tell at the funeral how deep in thought Trump was. You know what I mean?
Well, I like the intern replacement, Whitaker. I thought that he was that they would keep him in there.
Why can't
You
they keep
had
him in? Yeah.
400 Department of Justice employees sign a letter against
him. Yeah, and that's why I wanted him.
Yeah, exactly.
And then all of a sudden, Barr is in place.
Yeah.
Hello.
And their argument was that because Whitaker made a statement once that the Mueller probe went too far and that Hillary Clinton should be indicted.
Why do you not
for the email scandal?
Why do you not have an opinion if you hold public office?
After Trump
Good question.
After Trump picks Sessions, I'm a little leery about this pick. Because he picked some winners sometimes.
Well, Jeff Sessions, listen, we all thought Jeff Sessions was a good pick when he made it.
Yeah.
I did. I like Jeff as and I still think Jeff is a good guy. I think they had dirt on him, and he rolled over.
I agree.
You know, and it just went on and on and on. Unfortunately, when he recused himself, you knew that they had some dirt.
I concur.
What did Wayne Allen Root call it? The farm animal pictures, Brian? They said maybe they have the farm animal
Sessions
pictures
with the farm animals. That's what he said. I mean, it's true. I mean, listen. The problem with today is that technology has just launched the FBI and CIA into a whole nother realm. You don't even realize the stuff that they have on every single person
The NSA,
that is listening to this program right now.
The NSA
Everything
knows
they have on you.
The NSA knows all the kind of porn that you like.
Look at how quickly they but look how quickly they can find somebody. Look how quickly they can find somebody. You can have somebody mugged, or that guy that was beat in the streets of New York City, okay? And the guy kicked him and beat him right in the streets. That I guarantee, listen, they're going to find that guy. It'll be less than 2 or 3 weeks, and they'll have that guy nabbed.
Yeah.
How can they find somebody that easy? Because of all the cameras in the city, the things they're listening to. I mean, the information that they have is insane. Everything, your phone today is listening to you.
But
to unlock your phone,
but
you
they
can use retinal scan and face recognition.
But they can't find
rectal scans.
Retinal scan.
Oh,
rectal.
But
Next, they'll have rectal scans.
But they can't find Hillary Clinton's missing 30,000 emails.
That's what I'm saying. I'm
Which
just
is
saying.
bull. Which is bull.
We all know it's bull. I mean, if they have that kind of information, I mean, come on, they can go back in your social media for years and years and years.
If you want your privacy, you have to live totally off the grid in Belize somewhere.
You better not have a cell phone.
No, that's what I'm saying. You have to live completely off the grid.
Well, this Judge Lamberth wrote that despite the government's claimed presumption of transparency, which I agree, when he says presumption of transparency, what he means is there is none, and I agree with that. Faced with one of the gravest modern offenses to government openness, the Obama administration, State and Justice Department fell far too short on the law's requirements in a lawsuit. So it sounds like this judge, at the very least, who, by the way, the left stream media is saying that this is a rogue conservative judge.
Oh yeah, oh yeah,
right.
About as rogue as a 9th District Court.
Yeah, right. They complain when it goes against them, but see, I agree with this guy here, and hopefully, this all encompass and ties in with the Freedom of Information Act. And really what Judicial Watch demanded.
That's right. I love them. And I support them. And I'm a member.
Oh, you are?
Yeah.
Well, hopefully.
You're an oath keeper?
Listen,
and
you got to
be a member of Judicial Watch.
Yeah, dude, go to Judicial Watch and support them. It's easy to be a member. Go on and just join them.
I knew I liked
a couple
Brian.
bucks a year, and you know what? You're supporting a good cause because they don't just listen. They're not just going after left. They're going after the right too.
Right.
Oh no, absolutely.
They're the ones who
they're
expose
going
this
after
entire email scandal.
Exactly. They're just exposing corruption. Period.
Unfortunately, with Judicial Watch, they're trying to use the courts the way the courts were meant to be used, but there's so much corruption in the courts now and in the Supreme Courts that they have a tough time getting anything done.
Well, the problem is it's just like the NRA. Listen, if nobody supports the NRA, then your rights are going to be going bye-bye. If nobody is challenging this stuff in the courts and using the law the way it was, it's going to go bye-bye.
I agree with you.
You know what I'm saying? I mean, that's just how it is. Listen, when we come back, we're going to be talking about the Hawaii CFO of China is arrested in Canada. They want the extradition, baby. China is P.O.
Uh-oh, she in trouble.
Oh, they're not happy.
We love you.
Come back. Freedom on Deck. Oh, yeah. Freedom on Deck. 94.9 News Now and Stimulating Talk. Oh, we're back. It's the last topic of the day, baby. We're talking about Hawaii. CFO is arrested in Canada for extradition to the U.S. That's right. The top executive and daughter of the founder of the Chinese tech giant Huawei was arrested on Saturday in Canada at the request of the United States, and in a move to likely escalate tensions between the two countries at a delicate moment. The arrest of Meng Wanzhou, the chief
Meng Wanzhou.
Yeah, Meng Wanzhou, the chief financial officer, unfolded on the same night that President Trump and President Xi Jinping of China dined together in Buenos Aires and agreed to a 90-day trade truce. The two countries are set to begin tense negotiations in hopes to end a trade war that has been pummeling both countries. I think it's pummeling them more than it is us, to be honest with you.
Right. Except our stock market has not been doing good last week.
It hasn't been, and I think that's a lot of the the things that are going on globally with the stocks. But the global market
and what's happening in Europe now with these riots.
Correct.
You think that doesn't have something to do with it?
The global market has been bad, and the global economy has been bad. So, one affects the other. So, it's not long before, if the global market is fluctuating and is tripping up, it's not long before the U.S. economy is tripping up.
It's tripping over Apple stocks mostly.
So, it's technology and things like that. But, I mean, I think it's important that, you look at the big picture. I mean, obviously, she was arrested because there's a reason. Correct?
Yeah.
There's a reason why she was arrested.
Because there are sanctions against Iran. I think that her company is dealing with Iran
and
going against those sanctions. That's a crime.
Correct.
Exactly. And it's not like China has not held people that are our people.
He just scared me.
Over there.
I think CV,
right?
CV just had a Hillary moment over on the other side.
He said China.
I'm just saying. China is playing games. They're holding people. They're a joke, okay? And they are doing all kinds of things. Look at the stuff that they're doing in the South China Sea. Look at the way that they're buzzing ships. They're buzzing aircraft. They are escalating this themselves. They don't have anybody to blame but themselves.
They haven't been doing that since Barry left. Once Barry left, they stopped doing that stuff.
Look at what they're doing in the China Sea right now, bro.
Not with us. Buzzing our ships like they did when Barry was in office?
Not flybys like they were, and that was Russia that was doing flybys.
And China.
They were.
China did it too.
But they are still playing games.
Oh, I know they're playing games, but they know they know that we have a leader now that doesn't mess around.
Wow.
And China's economy is doing much worse than our economy is booming. Their economy is
What about what
down.
China does to their own people? They take organs, they harvest organs from their citizens.
Yeah. Who are practicing religions that are not condoned by the government.
Exactly.
Oh, dude, they do all types of
Christianity,
stuff.
and what was the other religion that
Muslims? They round up Muslims.
They round up Muslims too. They do.
Oh yeah,
they do.
They have them in basically
I can't blame them
camps.
for that.
She's being held in Vancouver and faces extradition to the United States, where she could be jailed up to 30 years. And she is the daughter of let me pull this up. She's the daughter of the firm's founder, so she's been there for a long time. But will Trump use this if they extradite her to the United States as a chip in his arsenal?
Well, a lot of it is that they're working creatively to undermine our national security interests in the United States, and our allies, can't sit on the sidelines, basically. You know what I mean? And so she's wanted for a lot of different reasons, and a lot of it goes back to all the different hacking and the technology stealing and all that stuff, and and she's part of that corporation. Well, hey, the chips fell.
I just hope they don't give her a free pass because she's cute.
No.
Cute.
I think I like Asian women.
Dude, she's balding.
No, she's not.
Yes, she is.
Not the pictures I saw. All right, maybe we're looking at different people.
I'm looking at her right here, son, and she has big bald spots on the side of her dome. And that is not cute to
all
me.
right, I must look at.
Look at that. This is what CV thinks is attractive.
No, I was looking at something from 20 years earlier.
super
Wait
hot.
a second, I'm bald.
Oh, you have long time.
Oh, bald is beautiful.
She was using a profile picture from 20 years ago, okay?
I don't know what's going to happen to Meng Huang Fong. I have no idea. Maybe justice will be served here for.
Well, I think
for
obviously
Meng Huang.
it's going to be one of those things that Trump is taking a play out of the Chinese playbook. You know what I'm saying? They do this all the time. They will hold people, and they use it as a bargaining chip.
Right.
You gotta admit he knows the game. He knows the game that the countries that hate us play,
because he's been dealing with them for years,
and he's just taking a play out of their playbook. I love it.
I just hope justice is served with a side order of egg rolls.
Those little handheld ones, those are good.
Well, I don't know.
The little ones.
Wait, spring rolls, or are we talking like shrimp rolls?
No, the egg rolls. The shrimp egg rolls are the best.
They're pretty good.
I wanted to talk a little bit before the show ends, a little bit about George Bush's passing. We did it last week, but it really, to me, was offensive in the fact that the left politicized it more than we did. And for one example is the way the president was treated when he walked into the funeral, and his rival, Miss Hillary, couldn't even look at the president of the United States and acknowledge his existence.
But Bill could look at the first lady.
Well, yeah. Well, if you notice when they walked in and they shook the hands of the Obamas, that happened, and they were both. Listen, I'll give them credit. They were cordial. Yep. You could see Bill turn and looked like he wanted to.
I was like,
but he pulled back real quick.
I was hoping she was gonna come.
You better not this time. Because you remember at the inauguration when he was staring at Ivanka, and she caught him.
You know how I like them Trump ladies.
Hillary was probably on heavy cough suppressant medications. Because if she started coughing in the middle of that funeral and she couldn't stop.
Well, did you see the video of her staring at the I don't know if it was the ceiling fans or the lights, but she looked out of it.
When you have the guru, you have to be heavily medicated all the time.
She was doing she was at one of these speaking things that her and Bill do. They're on their big tour, and she goes into one of her coughing fits. And this is only like 3 weeks ago.
And they cut the mic.
And they actually cut her mic. She's just like,
oh, this was at the tour. Yeah, I saw it.
And then he actually is asking a question. I don't know who the idiot is, because he's got to be an idiot to sit down with those two. But he's asking the question, and Bill Clinton actually has to answer it because she's still coughing after 3 minutes.
Find out if that's a symptom of Kuru as well. Is it coughing?
Oh, yeah.
But
sure.
But it's not just that moment. They also, of course, our favorite program, The View, which we seem to talk about a lot here because it's just so offensive. Joy Behar couldn't stop talking about how evil Donald Trump was when they were discussing the passing of George H.W. Bush. And she actually got into it with Meghan McCain and ended up calling her some nasty words. They cut and went to commercial, and she demands that Meghan McCain be fired. And Meghan McCain's I'm no fan of Meghan. She politicized her own father's funeral.
Oh, of course.
So I'm not giving her a slide by.
Yep.
But isn't it pathetic that these people can't just recognize the passing of an American president that was part of the last he's the last president of the greatest generation that had passed.
Yep.
And instead of just acknowledging that and talking about him, Behar couldn't help but go into a diatribe delivering blows to President Donald Trump. She couldn't help it. She couldn't resist it.
The night I found out that he died at 1:30 in the morning, I put on Fox News, and there's Brett Baer already politicizing Bush's death before his body even got cold yet. He was saying, I think the American people really long for civility in politics again.
Well, you certainly don't have civility by doing what you did on daytime television. And you want to know something? Even freaking Whoopi, even Whoopi was she was tactful about her response. she wasn't, she didn't go out of her way. She kind of gave the old, I didn't agree with a lot of his policies, but he was a good man and he served this country and yada yada yada. And then Joy Behar opens her big rear end, because that's what's on her face. It's her giant rear end,
ass face.
Sometimes
It's like,
Whoopi can
seriously.
sometimes Whoopi can be reasonable. Sometimes.
Well,
I've
listen,
noticed.
no, she's probably one of the more level-headed
Blowing
ones.
farts all over the freaking microphone.
But Bette Midler, in a response to Bush's funeral, tweeted out that she can't wait until the current president's funeral. And they
awesome.
and they didn't take it off of Twitter either, and they didn't give her a ban or anything like that, even though there were complaints.
Of course not. Of course not.
It's stuff like that is said all the time on these social media network platforms, and nothing's done about it. There was one, I forgot who it was, but and I'm sorry that I did forget, but it was an actress, Hollywood elitist, that was calling for, it was Bette Midler again. It was Bette Midler. That's right. She did it twice. The week before, she called for the hanging of Trump's whole family.
Yeah.
Hanging them all.
And what's funny is, and I'm sure it's, everybody that's listening, it doesn't take you long to remember back that it wasn't very long ago that none of these people would open their mouths this way. Nobody would say any. Listen, they were all actors and actresses in Hollywood and these elitists, and they all relied on the money of these people, of people like you and I, of going and watching their movies or going to their concerts or, going to their fundraisers for their political events and all that other stuff. It's crazy, but now it's just like the gloves are off. They have just gotten so emboldened to say whatever it is. The ability for them to attack you for anything remotely offensive
Because they can.
They're
allowed.
Because they have the media. Because not only do they have the mainstream media, they have social media. And social media is silencing people left, right, and center, and it's sickening.
They're following orders that come down from Barack O'Jarrett. That's what I call them.
Barack O'Jarrett.
Yeah, the two-headed beast. That's their allegiance goes to that, and it comes down. The orders come down, filters down to them, to the little robots on the bottom. That's what they do. They march in lockstep.
Absolutely. It's crazy. It's scary, too. It is scary, too. You have to watch yourself, but don't live in fear. And always keep it here on Sundays from 3 to 5. Same freedom time, same freedom station. But I want to let you know that next week, Maria Espinoza from the Remembrance Project is supposed to come by. Hopefully she answers her phone this time. She was supposed to be on last week, and she didn't make it. So we're giving her another shot here. And we also have Dr. Carol Swain. She's a Fox News contributor, professor in political science and law at Vanderbilt, and featured in Hillary's America, the movie. Everybody, have a fantastic day. This has been Freedom on Deck. Oh, you have long time?
Oh, you long time.